super messy. All right, let's just very briefly, because I feel really strongly. I've interviewed. I think I may have interviewed both of these candidates. Ohio, there is a congressional primary that's really important. Megan Harper. I interviewed. We played her, right? Morgan Harper, rather. And we played that interview, right, over vacation. People can go back, find it over our vacation week. I did that for Ring of Fire. She is an excellent candidate. Tell us just about Harper and then this challenge to Lipinski in Illinois.
Yeah, Harper. So she was a foster child in Columbus, Ohio, raised there. She actually already has one accomplishment under her belt. She's the candidate, if you remember, that ended up getting that New York Times editor demoted. I think Jonathan Weissman. You remember when Justice Democrats endorsed Morgan Harper, he tweeted something like, "Interesting, Justice Democrats endorsing against an African-American female incumbent, who's Joyce Beatty, who she's challenging." And she tweeted, "Jonathan, I'm black too." And he tweeted something like, "I know, I saw your picture," or something very weird, and then got himself demoted. So like one day long Twitter scandal. So she worked at the CFPB at a pretty high level, and then moved back to Columbus and is running with, kind of the support of all the left factions in the party. And it's a huge symbolic race, because the Congressional Black Caucus, ever since Joe Crowley lost, has been panicking over the possibility that these DSA style folks who are able to cobble together a working class coalition with gentrifiers are going to kind of remake the urban map for congressional races. And so far that hasn't happened to any CBC members yet. They've all survived whatever challenges they've gotten, but this is the biggest threat so far. Joyce Beatty's a huge player in Columbus. Her husband was a top state senator for 20 years. She was then appointed to his seat. She rose to become minority leader. She's been in Congress since 2012, and has, she's not remotely as kind of repulsive to the left as somebody like Dan Lipinski. Like Dan Lipinski openly anti-immigrants, anti-gay, anti-choice, pushed back against $15 minimum wage, just across the board, kind of an outlier in the new kind of more progressive House Democratic caucus. Whereas Joyce Beatty is much more in line with, she's going to, if you look at her voting record, it's going to be pretty consistently, with the rest of the Democratic caucus. Though she serves on the House Financial Services Committee,
right? She's
been friendly to a lot of financial institutions. She takes a lot of corporate PAC money. She's a very standard Democrat in that way, and so that's why it's such a threat. Because for decades, if you were a standard Democrat, you were fine. That's good enough. Your seat's not going to be at risk. If Morgan Harper is able to beat her, then it tells all these other standard Democrats that this way that you've been doing business, voting with the party on, mostly major issues, but being pretty corporate friendly along the way, isn't going to fly anymore. Or at least it comes with some risk that you're going to have to take in from the left.
That'll send a message to people like Gregory Meeks in Queens here. He's got a challenger, Sean Chattery, who I interviewed incidentally recently too. There's more in the Congressional Black Caucus of folks like that, standard Democrats who basically have been flying under the radar as being corporate. I mean, Meeks has been like this for, I just remember this from 10 years ago, going wait, what? This guy's,
right.
And there's been a lot of that, he's taking big money. How is that possible based upon, particularly, 10, 15 years ago, Queens was not gentrified to the extent that it is now. And, you start to realize he does this because he doesn't get challenged. and nobody, the voters just aren't aware of it. I'm barely aware of it. And so this is that race in Ohio is going to be a big deal. And again, we're going to see this, I don't know how this whole dynamic is going to be impacted, but those are two races we're going to be paying attention to.
Right. And she was counting on a lot of student support, and now OSU has been shut down. And so has the local community college, and so has the Lutheran college in the district. So, that's really going to cut the legs out from under her campaign. At the same time, they moved a bunch of polling places out of senior centers to protect seniors, which is public health, a great thing to do. You don't want people traipsing through senior centers, but now, are those seniors going to be able to vote? So it really, who knows? Like, it's a total wild card. What's going to happen on Tuesday.
Ryan Grimm, I held you for a long time. I know that upset I think it's your son, and tell him, like my son is extremely pissed at me. Every Tuesday night now, I have to pretend like I am a fan of Jim Carrey movies just to get him to go to bed as we cover the primary. So tell your son this.
So it's hard for them to understand that you're they don't understand this working from home thing.
You're
at home.
No, exactly. Well, I will be soon. And, he was pissed because I would just go out on Tuesday nights to do, coverage of the primaries. So I had to start sending him codes on YouTube just to get him to go to bed. I had to promise him, I know he's not watching now, but I had to promise him to work in the word ace because he is a huge fan of Ace Ventura. And
that's a good movie.
That's not a good movie. Ryan Grimm, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
See you later.
All right, bye. That's honestly been the hardest thing about this primary season is to have to come to grips and indulge my son's obsession with Jim Carrey.
That's the